Hello out there, and real quick before we get started, guys, you might notice a different background here today and maybe some additional background noise. Also, the lighting might be a little off compared to what you're used to on this channel, and that's because I'm filming this from a hotel. I'm out of town, I'm training for a new job, and so the next few videos might just be a little bit off in that regard, and then we'll get back home to my wife, and more importantly, my knives. Don't tell her that, though. But yeah, for now, guys, let's just get into the 10 things that you need to know about the new Spyderco Ikuchi. And number one, lines of a letter opener. And already, within the past few minutes, I posted something on Instagram, and I had someone comment that this looks like a glorified letter opener. And, you know, I can see that just looking at the lines of the knife. It is very aesthetically pleasing, and you can see this really slim and sleek and streamlined kind of design. But as far as size comparison goes, let's bring in something that I brought with me just for this comparison. And here is the Benchmade 943. So yes, maybe the design makes this look like a letter opener, but as far as overall blade length and overall length and then the width of the knife, I mean, there's really nothing all that different from the 943. So yes, the designs are different, but I think as far as the blade size and shape, it sort of mirrors what you see in one of the most popular EDCs ever. So not really that big of an issue when it comes to being able to use this for all EDC tasks. Also, one of my favorite things about this S30V full flat ground blade is the fact that it has this upswept kind of edge, which is almost Persian-esque, but no one's really calling it Persian because it's not as drastic as you see in a lot of like Persian blades. And I really like that in that it'll be easier to maintain than some of those other ones and a lot more functional, but still sort of has that spirit to it. So yeah, I am really a big fan of this blade shape and the overall lines of the knife. You know, taking a look at it closed, you can see that it is definitely thin, streamlined, and very lightweight, which gets us to number two. Some misinformation about the weight of this knife. I almost didn't pick this one up, guys. I wasn't sure that it was the design for me, and I was on Knife Center looking at it, and I saw that it was coming in at 4.1 ounces, and I thought that is not possible. Even though it does have full stainless steel liners, I mean, those liners are milled. It's a small knife. I thought maybe the dimensions of the knife were just a lot bigger than I had expected, because for this to be 4.1 ounces, it would have to be massive. And then I got the knife and I weighed it, and it came in at around 2.4 ounces, I think. I don't have my scale here with me, but you know, there's a little bit of misinformation out there. This is a very, very lightweight knife. Blade HQ has it at 2.1. I don't think it's that light, but again, a little bit of middle ground. And if anyone else picks one up and has a chance to weigh theirs, definitely let me know in the comments below what yours was, because like I said, I can't really validate that right now, but I know it's definitely not 4.1 ounces. So very thin, pocket friendly, streamlined, all that good stuff. All right, number three is more about the aesthetics, and it's about dual Spidey holes. So taking a look at this, it's one of the first things that you'll notice is that there are two spider holes on this knife. And the reason for that is that you have one hole when the knife is closed. And the designer, Paul Alexander, who also designed the Ouroboros and the Sliverax, which I really liked, what he said was that because the blade completely hides itself in the frame when it's closed, he wanted to be able to see that trademark Spyderco hole even when you know, the knife was closed. You know, most Spydercos, you'll have part of the blade sticking up and you can see that hole to some degree. Here you can't, and so he made the decision to have that hole go all the way through the knife. Aesthetically, I'm not really a big fan of that. I think it disrupts what is a really good looking knife here. You know, when you see it in fixed blades or other knives when it's not used as an opening method, I'm sort of okay with it here, but this just, I don't know, I'm not a fan of it and the way that it looks. Now, functionally, it does sort of serve a purpose because you can use it as like a beacon for where your hand is on the knife, and it does give you a point of contact. So like maybe when you're disengaging the lock, you know, you can have your thumb in the hole and it makes it easier, just gives you a spot to grip. And also what I've noticed is that when I have the knife just closed, like, you know, I'm flipping it around, like I use that hole for, you know, just to get my bearings. But is it necessary? No, not at all. I'll find a way to use it, but it's not something that I would have done if this were my design. All right, getting into number 4, talking more about the scales. Same old great scales. Guys, I really like this carbon fiber laminate over the G10 that Spyderco does. I think the first knife I ever had with it was the Sage 5. It might have been the first one that they ever did it on, actually. And I've just always been impressed with it. What it is just a little bit of carbon fiber on top of a G10 scale, and so you have this really classy, gentlemanly kind of look, which works perfectly with this knife. But then you also have a good amount of traction and just a really comfortable scale for when you're using the knife. And there are plenty of people who I've talked to who have always said, I would love if it were real carbon fiber, and a lot of times I agree. But as far as keeping the price point down and giving you a really good material for use, I think this is perfect. And what I think about when I think about the knives that have this, like the Sage 5, the Smock, I mean, they're all really good looking knives, but they're not knives that are like meant to break the bank, and they're not knives that are going to be necessarily the crown jewels of a collection. They're meant to be used, and as far as a user kind of handle scale goes, I really might prefer micarta on top of this, but that's probably about it. It doesn't get a whole lot better for me than this handle material. Really, really like it. All right, and getting into number 5, and actually numbers 5 and 6 are both going to be regarding the opening and closing of the knife because there is a lot to talk about here. Starting with number 5, flipping around. And yes, flipping around is a lot of fun with this knife because of the unique flipper tab that we have here. It is actually not a tab. It's completely circular. It's jimped all the way around. And this kind of design sort of plays into the rest of the knife. It fits really well with the rest of everything that's going on. But what I like about it most is that it's just fun to use and it works. Now, it does take some getting used to, and there will be times where if you don't have your finger on it quite right, when you pull it back, it'll sort of create friction and the knife won't open all the way. The D10 opening the knife isn't so strong that the knife can't stop itself from flying open. You know, so you can fail to open this knife, and you know, in the last couple takes of the video I did, but of course here it's going really well. The designer, Paul Alexander, he also recommends being able to open the knife with your thumb from the closed position. And you know, I saw a video where he had the knife like up and down, and I can't really do it because of the tripod, but basically it's like that, and that method works really well. It's super cool, feels really good and snappy in that position. Let me see if I can show you though, just the, no, of course not. You can though, you can sort of pop the D10 in order to slow roll it. So if you don't want to do anything too aggressive, you can get used to that and get a feel for that. It does take a little bit of time. All right, so that is the opening of the knife. It is a lot of fun, and like I said, here, let's get it open so you can see, you know, that flipper is completely hidden inside the handle when the knife is open, which is very cool. A couple other designers and a couple other knives that I've seen that have used a similar kind of flipping mechanism haven't been quite as good as this, so I am pretty happy with this knife. But as far as closing, number 6, it's hard closing. There are some issues with closing this knife, and we're going to get into all of them. So starting with the first one, well, disengaging the compression lock is not easy. So there isn't a lot of space here, as you can probably see, for your finger to get in, and also the liner for the compression lock is super stiff. I mean, it's very stiff. So more so than the actual flipper, this is what's going to hurt your finger. And so what I found myself doing, just because my forefinger was sore, is I disengaged the knife a lot with my middle finger and then push down with my forefinger. Sorry that my hands are so shaky. I just had a long drive, and I've been opening this knife like on on and off while I'm filming this for like the past half an hour. So sorry about that. But yeah, I think disengaging it middle finger is pretty good, and then pushing down, and you can see it's smooth. There's not a lot of friction or anything, but it just isn't going to drop shut. And one of the reasons for that is where the closing like detent disengages. So you have a lot of space before you get to that detent, and so it's right here. But then here, like from here down, there just isn't enough weight in the blade and enough smoothness in order to make this this drop shut. I've had knives, Spyderco knives specifically with compression locks, where I didn't think it would drop shut, and then other people were able to finagle it or clean it or lubricate it and get theirs to drop shut. I don't think that this is ever going to be that knife though. Another reason for that is the washers. The washers are tiny, and let me see if I can get a shot at them inside. I do have a video that I can cut in and you can take a look. I mean, they're just very, very small. I thought it was just a small bit of cage bearings at first, just looking at it, but no, it definitely isn't. So that is a little bit of an issue, and people are going to be not too thrilled about that, because one of the things you think about with compression locks is being able to like flick it shut really easily or have it fall shut, and that's just really not the case with this knife. So there is that. But one of the things that is good is that this knife sort of becomes ambidextrous, because one of the things I noticed closing the knife is that it's just as easy to disengage the compression lock with your left hand and push down. And when you do that, you know, if you are left-handed, you can flip that pocket clip, the wire pocket clip that I like a whole lot here, and basically have a knife that works just as well on the left side as the right side. So yeah, you do have that ambidextrous aspect of it. All right, getting into number 8, we have fit and finish. So the fit and finish of this knife was actually, though, really good. I did take the knife apart and I did lubricate it, and I did try to get it a little bit better, and it was super easy to do it. You know, there were no issues. There wasn't a lot of Loctite like I've seen on a number of other Spydercos. The knife was put together really simply and really well. There's no like noticeable hot spots. The only big fit and finish kind of thing, and it's really design more than anything else, is just this the compression lock disengaging it. But as far as the knife goes and the way that it's built, like it is it's completely comfortable and completely well done as far as just the machining and the build quality goes, which leads me into number 9, no hot spots. So there aren't any hot spots on this knife, and if you looked at this, and getting back to what I said at the beginning of the video with the comparison to the 943, like, you know, the design is very different, and so you wouldn't think that this would be as good an EDC as the 940 or the 943, and a lot of that is that you just don't have some of the qualities as far as ergonomically speaking with jimping and any kind of guard that would really help support using this as a like hard EDC. But that said, when I first got this knife, I saw the mailman come while I was in my carport breaking down boxes, and so I immediately unboxed this knife and started using it and did a lot of cutting with it, and it performed really well. I mean really well, and there were no hot spots. I had no issues with it whatsoever. I even like gripped it in my right hand a whole lot and squeezed to see if that pocket clip would create a hot spot, and for me it really didn't. It's just really comfortable, and with as many draw cuts as I do, it was just excellent. It performed really, really well, and yeah, I didn't have any problems with it. So I think for what I use my EDCs for, this is going to be more than fine for everything that I need. You know, if you can break down a lot of like corrugated cardboard with a knife, then at least for me, I'm not going to need it for many harder tasks than that. So no hot spots in doing that, then probably not going to have any ergonomic issue at all. Certainly would prefer some jimping, certainly would prefer a guard, but yeah, it didn't really strike me as a big issue while I was using it. So number 10, price and recommendation. Guys, I'm really comfortable with the price of this knife at $130. I like what Spyderco is doing with some of the S30V stuff and the carbon fiber laminate G10 knives like the Smock, which came out just a couple months ago, and you know, just the Sage 5 going back, and this line of knives, if you're going to keep it all in, you know, the same category, it just works for me. They're good looking designs, they're good to use, and this one at $130 is, I think, a pretty fair price point. You know, you're not going to get very many compression lock knives with Taiwan quality from Spyderco any cheaper than this. Now, as you can tell just from watching this video, it isn't a perfect knife. There are some things that I would have done differently. There are some things about it that I don't like. But overall, there's just something about this knife that is very, very pleasing to me. And I really do like the execution of it, and I like the design, and I like it as an EDC that I can basically do everything that I need to do with this knife and have it fit, you know, a variety of different like carry needs, because it is such a classy, slim, and sleek piece as well. So I definitely recommend it, especially at the price point where it's at. So let me know what you think, guys. But any questions, comments, complaints, suggestions, I will be talking to you down below. Appreciate you watching, and take care. Have a good one.